The following is a GoPowercat.com production.
Two games on the Big 12 slate last night, with one of them being maybe the marquee game of the NCAA season so far. This is the Big 12 Insiders, people.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
All right, welcome everybody back to the Big 12 Insiders. This is your man, Brien Hanley, otherwise Big B. We got Rob Sellers, publisher of the Cougar Digest. Rob, how's it going today, my man?
Doing really well. Got good weather down here and everything at the moment, man.
Yes, absolutely. It is beautiful here in Frisco, Texas today at Studio 73. Well, let's just dive into this real quick, Rob. Look, the marquee matchup of the season, I think, so far. I know a lot of people want to throw Kansas into that mix, but, you know, this was number 2, number 6 team, the top 2 teams of the Big 12 conference, of the best conference in the country. And that game last night, Rob, it was a barn burner. It was a really good game. I didn't think Houston was really in any danger of losing the game. I don't think they lost control of the game, but it was a close game throughout the night. I just thought it was really good basketball.
Yeah, definitely. I was in the same position. I didn't feel like they were ever really in any danger, but Iowa State definitely was going to make them earn each step of the way, and they pushed them the whole way. And they, you know, everyone talked going into that game about just how similar these two teams are in terms of the non-scoring aspect of what they do, pretty much. And so, man, it was impressive to see. It cemented that much more. I saw an Iowa State fan to come on our board this morning or whatever and said that, I didn't think we were going to win, but at least cemented my thoughts that Iowa State is a top 10 program. And I think it does. Beating Houston and the Houston fans, they obviously look at it simply as Houston, what are they doing to try to beat this next team or whatever. But it's probably a bit of a new spot for them overall in the short term, for other teams to gauge themselves based on what they do against Houston. That's a team, more your blue bloods type thing. How do you do against Kansas and Texas and this and that? So it's an interesting spot that Houston finds itself in their fan base. It seems like it's been quick because there was such a long period before Kelvin Sampson got to Houston, and it was so dead. But it's been short, but very very steady in their climb back to being a national prominent team again.
Yeah, I would think that it's got to be really gratifying for the fans there too, because Houston, like you mentioned before, they have tradition. It was just a long time ago that they had the tradition, but they've got it. And I'm sure that Houston fans are just overjoyed with them being back in the spotlight, being back where number one, I think the fans feel like they belong, and we'll get into Houston athletics a little bit later. But I just feel like the Houston fans, they understand what kind of basketball program that they've had and that they have it again. And they get behind it. Look, that was a great atmosphere, number one, Rob, last night. That's one of the things that I took away. I want people to understand that, a lot of people don't hear about Houston, and they hear from it from afar, and they think, okay, it's the school out there. They don't realize, number one, they're in the Big 12 now. And number two, they can get behind this basketball team. Yeah. That was an outstanding atmosphere last night, Rob.
Really, really good. Last two atmospheres between Saturday's game with Texas and this one as well, especially for a Monday night. I'm happy that and I don't know who all was involved, but switching the tip-off time back to 8
absolutely
probably helped a lot with these guys getting around. Houston's such a big city.
Right.
You got people coming across the city at 5 o'clock for a 6 o'clock tip. It makes it for a late arriving crowd. So I think that helped for sure last night. And then this fan base, they will definitely support a winner. And this, Kelvin Sampson and his whole family, the way they've built this program and included the fan base each step of the way. I mean, it really does feel like a close-knit family from the team to the fans. Everybody's very interactive with each other. I mean, it's got a good feel that wasn't around before Kelvin Sampson got here for sure.
Absolutely. Digging into the game a little bit, just taking a look at the stats. Look at Jamal Sheed, stepped up last night, 26 gigantic points. LJ Cryer had a little bit of a down game, a bad shooting night, but, Emmanuel Sharp picked up the slack. I just thought that, in a game like that, a tough game, you got a guy that's not shooting well, which you expect, because the same thing happened on Iowa State's side. they were able to hold Lipsy in check. And not only that, he turned the ball over. And that was where, for me, Rob, was where I thought that Houston took control of the game because, look, both teams love to rebound. And Iowa State did just that. They out-rebounded Houston, which you don't see often. They out-rebounded them by 9. So they got after them. But where you can always make the difference if you got out-rebounded or if you get out-rebounded is on the turnover difference. And it was 16-9. Houston got 20 points off of those turnovers. I think that was kind of the difference in the game. Not to mention they just pounded the ball inside. They got to the free throw line a ton. Houston, they're just a tough basketball team.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of teams I think they're going to run across that will be on that same level in terms of, the rebounding and stuff, those things that Houston's really known for, defense and rebounding. And I don't think they're going to run across a lot of teams that are going to be on that level. There are obviously other teams. They're not the only ones that play that brand of basketball. But I think when they do, to see that they pick up the slack like that, even when they do get out rebounded, which, like you said, is rare, for them to find that, the advantage somewhere else on the stat book, so to speak, to find it in another column and for them to capitalize on the turnovers. And when you have LJ Cryer have a home off shooting night, which isn't very common for him at home, especially,
right?
To have Emmanuel Sharp be able to step in and like you said, take the slack up. They've got, a few different guys. Shed, and he's always going to be there doing his thing. He's become, even in the last, handful of games, he's really kind of stepped forward even more as the go-to guy. When it boils down to it, and a couple guys are having bad shooting nights, he still has that ability to take over. Now, he loves to play the point guard role over there, and he's a great, setter of the table. But when it comes down to it, if he knows he has to, he will. And that just kind of is one of those, I feel it probably gives the team a lot of confidence. They want to play their normal brand of basketball. But if it comes down to it, and, guys are struggling, they know they can go turn around to Jamal Shed and get him, more included in the scoring side. So I think it's just a testament. It stinks a little bit. You hate to play that game. And I know everybody's going through the same thing at the moment in the country, but had Terrence Arsenault not gone down with his Achilles earlier in the season, it's just be interesting to see just how good this team might be if they had that another more, consistent scorer from the guard spot out there.
Right. Absolutely. And again, frustrating. It's just, injuries are part of it. It stinks. Not so much. I mean, I know we compare basketball and football a lot of times, but it's not so much in basketball injuries, but it is what it is. What are you going to do? Everybody has to deal with it. Unfortunately, that's a part of sports. Taking a look at the remaining schedule for Houston, a lot of people thought, okay, this is the game that's going to decide the conference. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. I go, that hasn't decided anything yet. I go, I'm just looking at the schedule here. I mean, Houston, they go to Baylor, then they got Cincy, they go to Oklahoma, to UCF, which a lot of people think, oh, you go to UCF. Well, yeah, that's not just an easy place to go win these days. Exactly. And then at home, the last game of the year against Kansas. So they're ahead by a game. They're leading the league, but they still have some work to do, Rob, to finish this thing off.
Yeah, I think last night just basically narrowed down exactly who's back the target is on down the stretch. I know that everyone was focusing on that being, like you said, that being maybe the game that decides it. And in the short term, sure, they got that game lead, but I believe now they've split with Iowa State. Mm-hmm. They'll be shooting to win at home against Kansas in the last game to split there. So, I mean, I'm sure, there's a very, very good chance for all this to come down to tiebreaker somewhere along the way. But I like, and I saw that they put out the Big 12, I guess it put out just kind of if the season ended today, mock-up of what the Big 12 championship would look like. And I think Houston fans are going to appreciate that two-round bye type deal, being in the top 4. Right. That's not something that they are used to. I don't think they did that, unless I'm just completely losing my brain in the moment. I don't think they did that in the AAC. I think it's because of more teams, obviously. But I think that Houston's really going to appreciate that, because every game, and they've realized real quickly, every game in this conference is a dogfight. Any night, any team can rise up and beat you top to bottom. If you have a bad night, they can absolutely get you. So, a big sigh of relief, so to speak, for the Cougar fans last night to get that win. But you turn right around, like you said, at Waco this weekend. So, I mean, that'll be a dogfight too. LJ Cryer going back to Baylor, And then you mentioned too, with Houston going back Oklahoma, that'll be Sampson returning back to his old stomping ground. So, I mean, there's always these under stories and stuff that are going to be there, that they're going to be potential little pitfalls and stuff. They're going to have to stay focused and push through to the end of the season.
Gotcha. We're going to take a quick break right here, and we'll come back on the other side of this, and we'll talk a little football, but we'll also ask a question about Houston and maybe them taking over the top spot as far as the conference is concerned, and what Houston fans may feel about that. So we'll be right back from just a quick message from our partners with Synergy Financial.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. Again, this is Brien Hanley. Today we have Rob Sellers, publisher from the Cougar Digest. Again, just as a reminder, Tuesday through Friday, 1 p.m. Central Time here on YouTube. Please come and check us out. Come and subscribe. Again, this is a Big 12 show, so we want all Big 12 fans to come and check us out. We will have your school up. So today we're talking Houston. So, Rob, quick question, before we switch over to football real quick. The Big 12 Conference, as far as the basketball side, for years, it has been known as Kansas, just dominated by Kansas. I mean, I can't remember. I think it was 15 years in a row or something crazy that they won the conference. They tied a couple of those years, but either way, Kansas has dominated this conference as a whole for the better part of 2 decades. Houston coming into this, their first year coming into the conference here, a lot of people thought Houston would be good, but I think a lot of people thought, okay, they're going to take a step up in competition. They're going to take a step back. I know they were good in the AAC, even though they were in the Final Four a couple years ago. This is different. And I never looked at it that way. And I don't think that Kelvin Sampson did, or the Houston fans looked at it that way either. I think they thought, hey, guys, I don't know what you're thinking about the Houston program, but we are just as good as they are, if not better, and we're ready to take over this thing.
Yeah, I think it's a little easier to do on the basketball side, in my opinion, just because, obviously with it being the way it is, and so many games and home and this and that, all that mixed in as well. But I think Houston fans were definitely confident in what their team could do. You see so much of them playing outside the AAC in non-con, and then also in the tournament stuff they've done the last few years. And I think that helped them at least, they didn't get anything they didn't know what was coming type thing. They've played these teams and teams at this level in the years past, but not on the consistent basis. And that was the big question. And I think we talked about it even early on is, can they withstand the 2 times a week dogfight that it is the Big 12? And I think they benefited some by Kansas having a little bit of a down year this year.
Right.
And I think they've also benefited from the rest of the Big 12 having some other teams that are good too. More people beating up on each other, so to speak, becomes one of those SEC football situations, in that whoever finally does emerge from this, this is going to be a well-earned title, and definitely going to be a well-prepared team heading into the tournament. So I think Houston fans will gladly take that if that's how it plays out. I think Houston fans are growing. Their confidence is growing more and more as they've continued to traverse this Big 12 schedule and have success. But they know they've still got a couple, just like we talked about with the upcoming schedule. There's still some big tests.
Yeah.
That game back home with Kansas in the last game of the season, that could be a very big game. That could shape up to be a fun one. And so I don't think they'd ask to be in any other spot, though. After begging for so many years to get back into a power conference, them finally being there and knowing that they're kind of taking lumps on the football side too, I think they wouldn't trade it for anything else.
I 100% agree with you, Rob. The one thing that I've said is from the day that Houston, they announced that they were going to be in the Big 12, I said, Houston is kind of a hidden gem here. I go, it's in one of the biggest cities in the country. I go, they will get fan support. If they're good, they will support this team. I said it, and I said with how they – and I know football right now is taking a little bit of lumps. I go, but you got the right coach in, number one. With Willie Fritz, you definitely have the right coach that's in there to turn things around. But with the recruiting grounds that Texas has for high school recruiting, I just think with it being the hidden gem that it is, I'm just saying I think Houston is going to be right there when it comes time. I mean, give it a little bit of time to fix things. I said, but they're going to be something to be reckoned with in this conference when it comes. They already are in basketball, but definitely when it comes to football.
Yeah, absolutely. Them being in such a fertile recruiting ground, and it's helped a lot too, having the transfer portal come to be. That helps any of these guys that took off to other schools and want to come back closer to home. They wouldn't consider Houston a lot before, and I mean, some of these guys, and it's obvious. I mean, the coach Holgerson said it whenever it was brought up last year that they've got guys basically that wouldn't talk to them before because they weren't in a power conference, and that those players have that standard set when they're coming up.
Sure,
I'm going to be a Power 5 player. And so there were a lot of guys, and we ran across them covering recruiting into things, guys that ended up transferring back right after the portal that really liked Houston a lot, but just couldn't bring themselves to do it regardless of the situation, just because they wanted to play on one of the bigger stages. And now it's you almost get spoiled pretty quickly in what was probably kind of a little bit of a down signing class.
Mm-hmm.
The close that Willie Fritz made, first and foremost, it was just phenomenal the way he and his staff came in and was able to close that out. They end up with basically 3 4-stars in the class, one of which they got to flip just before early signing period. The other one, the 4-star running back out of Alabama, they landed the day before signing day. He was in the weekend before a traditional signing day. And then the other one was a guy that had committed very early on, and Maurice Williams from Pearland Shadow Creek down here, that had committed very early. He flipped from LSU to Houston to the old staff, but was there and wanted to play in the Big 12 in Houston at home type thing. So I think that they've got an opportunity to land these pieces quicker than you would the old ways because of the transfer portal. But they're still going to have to get in there. What I keep saying, and I've said it for years, you'll know Houston's finally made it. They've always been pretty good at getting some, quarterbacks, wide receivers, a good running back here and there. They've always had these skill guys and stuff. When you start seeing Houston land and or keep home 4-star tackles coming out of high school, and you all know that's the biggest fight. It is every year. When you start seeing that a few times, then you'll know Houston's really dug their hooks in, and they can pretty much do what they want,
Yeah, that's the thing about it is getting those big guys, because there's a lot of good football players. Number one, just in the Houston area alone. But when you start getting those big guys, those big offense and defensive tackles to start staying, that's going to make the bigger difference. And I'm just telling you, for a lot of people that may not be familiar with Willie Fritz, I don't have firsthand knowledge. I played against him when I was in junior college. My quarterback, Michael Bishop at Kansas State, played for him at Blinn. It just speaks the world about him. Just absolutely loves the man. So he's demanding, but he's very smart. But he's going to demand that the players, number one, he's going to hold them accountable, but he's going to demand to get the best out of them. And I think that moving into a new conference for the second year, obviously this year coming up, I just think that Houston football is on the rise. I just believe, Rob, that what they have going on, if they can put it together, there's still a lot of work to be done, but if they can do it, it is a hidden gem that could absolutely explode.
Yeah, absolutely. And they actually had – so Willie, of course, was from Willis at some point. Willis is Michael Bishop's hometown too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's funny, when they got here, Willis had DJ Lagway, 5-star quarterback this year that was committed to Florida forever and ended up signing with them. But even the ties that Willie has in that community up there from way back when, Willie hit the ground and went up there and visited Willis and actually had – DJ Lagway and such. I don't know how serious they were considering, but right before he signed with Florida, the last couple of weeks, it was a kind of it had even come out. It was even reported through them that yes, I'm still committed to Florida, but I'm also considering Houston and Baylor and somebody, a couple other local schools. So in the day of the transfer portal, that's a perfect thing for him to do, to go make sure he gets that relationship built. You never know what's going to happen. Absolutely. He could get to Florida and not like it. There could be a coaching change there, and he could want to come home. And so that's the type of things you got to do well ahead of time, just to make sure you're that relationship builder and you're building those relationships. And these coaching staffs know that this year. That's no surprise. But
yeah,
it's come across pretty quick to me that Willie Fritz is really good at what he does. He's a very pure and genuine guy, and it's been a breath of fresh air for the fans I know, and for sure. Matter of fact, we just found out a couple weeks ago that we're going to actually have full access to spring football practices. I've covered this team for 15 seasons, and I've never been full on practices. So,
all right,
that's good. I mean, that's a good thing for a team like this that's wanting to get the word to the fans. It's great to use the media in a good way. It's a good thing. They can help you. You got to. I mean, there's a give and take there, but you got to use them.
You got to use them and try to get the profile picked up a little bit. I 100% understand. Look. Dana Holgorsen, he was what he was. When he took the job, I think everybody was surprised, number one, because I think he was probably going to get fired at West Virginia, but he didn't. And he took the Houston job. And I think everybody's like, why would you do that? What's the purpose? And then he's there and they don't do a lot. And it was just like he wasn't working hard in the job. And I think Houston now, I love that Houston is in the Big 12. I just think there was that hidden gem, and I keep going back to that. But I just think the program was above where they were at, and they just didn't have the opportunity. They were just one of those Southwest Conference schools that kind of got left out in the cold when the Big 12 was formed, and they wanted in, and they didn't bring them in, and now they're back in. They finally got in, and I think it's good for everybody. And one thing is that they're going to have to fight people because people are going to come from all over the place. Hey, Houston's in the conference now. We can go to Houston and start recruiting and bringing those people out of there. So I think that's good for everybody involved. Thank you, Rob, again, for taking the time with us today, man. We appreciate it. Like I said, Houston Cougars being in the Big 12, this is a good thing. This is a very good thing, man.
Thanks for having me on, man. We'll do it again soon.
No problem. Absolutely. We'll take one quick break before we end the show. We'll take it and then we'll come right back. But again, one message from our partners at Synergy Financial.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right. Welcome back again to the Big 12 Insiders. I just want to make a couple of things clear while I have a quick second with you. Number one, this is a Big 12 show. I've gotten a lot of comments and a lot of emails and texts that say, hey, Brien, I know this is a Big 12 show, but it's on the K-State network of GoPowercat on YouTube. And it is. But don't be confused to think that this is a Kansas State show. This is truly a Big 12 show. We are showcasing all schools, minus OU in Texas, in the Big 12. In all the new ones as well. Arizona State, Arizona, Colorado. We are bringing all those schools in to be a part of this. All of the schools are going to be involved. So I don't want everybody to think that, hey, this is just a Kansas State show where we're just helping Kansas State. That's all they want to talk about. We're changing up the format a little bit here to help everybody understand that. So partly that's my fault. But we will get better. But as this thing moves along, we're moving along at a pace to where we want to make sure that everybody understands that we are talking Big 12 sports. Everybody's involved. Everybody will continue to be involved. This is just the platform it happens to be on as of now. So we appreciate all the support that everybody has given us so far. Remember to continue to like and comment on the show and go subscribe. We appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully we'll do it better. Thank you.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.